My name is Kenny Solway, and I'm known as the last river rat. Folks say I'm a dying breed. My home has always been the Mississippi River, and here I've survived all my life as a hunter, trapper, fisherman, and writer. The river is my lifeblood, and indeed it is the lifeblood of our nation. It splits America in half, so to speak, and yet it joins it together. The river is a nursery of life, a place that has intrigued me, a mysterious, magical place. A place where every season has a different story to tell. The upper Mississippi River backwaters have always been my home, and in particular a place called Big Lake Shack, which I built with my own 2 hands and my sweat. It stands a stone's throw from the water's edge. During all these years I have gained a knowledge and a respect and a love for this place. All of the things that hang in the shack have a memory attached to them. I've never fit into what folks call the real world. But then I like to think that this is the real world here in the Mississippi backwaters. For nature is always real. Henry David Thoreau, one of America's first and foremost nature writers, once said that most of the glowing reports about winter are written beside the wood-burning stove. How true that is. For a river rat like me, this is the harshest, toughest time of the year. And all the critters and birds are struggling for survival. It is a time of silence and rest, and for the weak, it is a time of death. Now is the time of the year when the white winds of winter roar down from Canada. The great river is frozen. Life becomes very hard for those that must hunt and eat every day. And it is especially hard for America's symbol, the magnificent bald eagle. The bald eagle is awe-inspiring. When you see it soar, the eagle soar from the bluff tops on the homeless wind. And hear its wings. See the strength, the dignity, the beauty of this bird. It is indeed a symbol of freedom. I would like to be an eagle. I would like to see what the eagle sees. When one considers that an eagle is moving at close to 100 miles an hour in its power dive, and the fish is moving as well with the current, the eagle times that dive in order to hit its prey, a feat that is incomparable. The eagle lives along the upper Mississippi River in great numbers. Sometimes as many as 800 eagles can be seen on just one stretch of the river, competing for gizzard shad and other fish. Us folks that have made a living along the great river have always been called river rats. The name conjures up images of a besodden, muddy critter. And indeed, it's a nickname that comes from an icon of the Mississippi, the muskrat. I owe it much. I've eaten its meat and traded its fur. It's tenacious. It clings to life. Strengths that make me proud to be named after this courageous critter. The term river rat is not given to a person, it is earned. A river rat makes a living with the Mississippi River. I say with rather than off the river, because to live with something is to live in harmony. To live off of something is like a parasite, a bloodsucker, a louse, a wood tick. There's an old-time saying that river rats are too stubborn to freeze to death, too full of hot air to drown, and too damn independent to call anyone boss. I guess there's some truth in these words. For one who's led a solitary life, surviving on whatever I could find along the river. I don't know if there's a pleasure in fishing or hunting or any consumptive use of wild critters. There's a gratification in the fact that I can secure my own food, and I don't have to hire a mercenary to do my killing for me, my butcher. In the winter-time, the snapping turtle returns to its wintering grounds beneath the ice, down into that black, boot-sucking Mississippi mud. I harvest one. Let's face it, I kill one snapping turtle each winter. In the old days, I took more turtles, and I sold their meat to the fish markets. I never trapped or killed any critter just to see it die, to see the fire of life go out of its eyes. That's not a valid reason to kill anything. I hunt and fish for food.
When the sun goes down, the tide goes out, the people gather round and they all begin to shout. Hey, hey, Uncle Daddy, tweet to beat your feet on the Mississippi mud. It's a tweet to beat your feet on the Mississippi mud. Whoa, what a dance do they do? Lordy, how I'm telling you, they don't need no band. They can time by clapping their hands. just as happy as a cow, chewing on a cud. People beat the feet on the Mississippi mud.
When the river runs free again after the spring thaw, the forest is transformed into a floodplain. This is the best time of the year to see beaver, because the floods often drown out their winter lodges. The family is forced to take up temporary accommodation wherever they can get it. The beaver is legendary for its fur. It spends much time preening and conditioning its luxurious coat. America, one could safely say, was founded upon the beaver. Seldom has a creature played such a profound role in influencing the history of a continent. Beaver trapping inspired much of the early exploration of the United States. Men conquered vast oceans, wove their way across trackless wilderness, waged war, all in pursuit of the beaver. The beaver was all but wiped out. So it cheers my spirit to see the beaver here today, rescued by man from extinction by man. It now thrives in the Mississippi backwaters. Toward the end of April, the great sturgeon begin to spawn. A most peculiar, ancient-looking fish. The females are as long as a man is tall. It's a virtual orgy, an underwater orgy. They are in a frenzy. There's perhaps 8, 9 males traveling with one female, ready to fertilize the eggs, helping her lay the eggs by bumping against her. The females live to be 100 years old. And they don't begin spawning until they're 25 years old. They lay up to 800,000 eggs. That's about 15% of their body weight. The incredible thing is that only about 1,000 of those will hatch. There's great predation that goes on. So the sturgeon are actually performing two very important duties: carrying on their species as they have for millions of years, and feeding others in the process. When I see smoke above the bluff tops, it tells of the coming of spring. Every year along the river, folks burn the prairies to clear brush and replenish the soil with nutrients. The fire and the wind, it seems, create great destruction. But in reality, there is great life in a fire. Before long, there's a lushness, a verdancy, a beautiful greenness to the landscape that wouldn't have been there if it weren't for the fire. This time of the year brings forth a rejuvenation of the human spirit, a rebirth of the earth. The birds come back, and the air is filled with the sweet smell of plum blossoms. The whole universe seems to be moving at once. Each spring I become as a small child again, and I see all the phenomena of nature unfolding, and I am awestruck. With all this bounty, making a living, securing food is so much easier now for a river rat like me. In spring, I collect roots and herbs for food and medicine. The pungent skunk cabbage root, for instance, is a cure-all for rheumatism. It's a keeping of the old ways, and I gain a certain freedom and independence from being self-sufficient.
I can't recall my mother, I don't remember Dad. Mr. and Mississippi was all I ever had. Oh, I was born to wonder, oh, I was born to roam. And Mr. and Mississippi made me feel at home.
The canoe is a most ancient watercraft. It floats upon the waters like a leaf. It is a most beautiful way to travel the backwaters of the big river. There is no hurry. There is no hustle and bustle. One can travel at one's own pace, which is seldom found in modern-day life. There is an old saying among river rats that each time you step into the river, you never step in the same river twice. For change is the only thing constant along the river. By the end of April, the snapping turtle is out from under its wintry prison of ice. It begins to travel up and down the backwater sloughs. Certainly it's ravenous after a winter of not eating. The snapping turtle is so named because it snaps. One is rarely so foolish. Maybe only one time one will stick one's finger in front of a snapping turtle, because you'll end up wearing the thing. Toward the summer solstice, a primeval urge brings Mama Turtle out from the waters to her traditional egg-laying ground. She not only returns to the same spot each year, but in all probability she was born here. She lays up to 30 ping-pong ball-size eggs into the hole she's dug in the bank. Then she covers the nest and entrusts the sun, sand, and time to do the work of birthing. She says, "So long, kids. I'll see you toward the end of summer." We're going fishing. Yeah, we're going to try and catch us a trout. Catch a trout. shadows are crossing the stream. A slight breeze. And the grasses are already, cool season grasses are seeding. Their seed heads nod toward the waters. Now is the coming of summer. Have a bite.
It doesn't make a bit of difference, really, whether one is catching a fish or not. Certainly I need some fish to eat, but if fishing was all about catching, we'd call it catching, but we call it fishing. It's all about being out there, thinking about times past, times to come, today.
Among river folk, there's a little jingle that is sometimes said. What a wonderful bird is the pelican, for its beak can hold more than its belly can.
The white pelican believes in community, a sense of community, and they help each other. The pelicans will surround a school of fish and literally herd them like one would sheep. When one watches a duck take off from the water, it's almost effortless. But when one watches a pelican, it's like watching a 747 going down the runway. It takes a great deal of power and effort and quite a large body of water for them to gain enough speed and eventually rise up in the air.
During the height of summer, the waters of the great river give birth to the biggest and yet most short-lived spectacle of the year.
M-I-S-S-I-S, S-I-P-P, out in Mississippi, they're rolling on. I hear the echoes of the pines keep going on. Hey, M-I-S-S-I-S, S-I-P-P, out in Mississippi, hey Mississippi, riding on, riding on. Well, nothing better, living home, make it hard.
It's the 4th of July, a day in the life of the mayfly. Born, mate, lay eggs, die. Mayflies are the Mississippi's barometer. A big hatch means a healthy river.
In my early days, I followed a very strange profession in the summertime, that of a snaker. A snaker hunted timber rattlesnakes and killed them for a bounty. The bounty was $5 apiece for the adults, $1 apiece for the unborn. And in the summertime, I would travel up the steep hills that line the Mississippi River, seeking rattlesnakes. There has always been an innate fear, it seems, in the human psyche when it comes to snakes. The rattlesnake, being a poisonous snake, created even more fear. People killed them at every turn, every opportunity. It seemed as though it were the right thing to do at the time. It was a way to supplement my income as a river rat. And I never dreamed that the timber rattlesnake would become endangered. But that's what has happened. Today, 30 years later, I look back on those days and wish that there were as many now as there were then. My uncle, in one summer's time, bountied over 600 rattlesnakes. Now one would be hard-pressed to find 600 rattlesnakes in this whole county. So it now behooves me to protect and care for the rattlesnake. One might ask, it's only a rattlesnake, it's something that can harm people. But the circle of life needs the rattlesnake. We cannot lose one part, or it will be sorely missed by all the rest.
Now, during the dog days of summer, in mid-August, all things along the great river are beginning to mature. The birds, the fish, the plants. One of the most spectacular plants is the American water lotus. The blooms that occur in these great river gardens have a life of just 2 to 4 days, not long for pollination. But the flower has a trick up its sleeve. It is one of only 2 plants that has the ability to warm itself up at night, and in so doing invites insects to tuck up and spend the night inside its cozy bloom. Here the plant is pollinated, and in the morning the insects have a competitive edge. Their muscles are warm. They are ready to get out and about. Another tiny link in the interconnection of all life along the great river. When birthing of the snapping turtle occurs toward the end of August, the tiny turtles, not much bigger than a quarter, break through their shell with a sharp little egg tooth.
Down in Mississippi, down in Mississippi, where I go. Down in Mississippi, where I go.
There's no sign pointing this way to the water, and yet the baby turtle instinctively knows which way to go. This is a time of great danger. The little turtles are vulnerable to being picked off by birds of prey, raccoons and skunks. Maybe only 5% will reach maturity and live to be as old as I am now. One of the most magical things about the Mississippi River occurs in the autumn. The river begins to send up a mist, It's almost like a spirit.
As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, sisters, let's go down, come on down. Oh, sisters, let's go down, down in the river to pray. As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Good Lord, show me the way. Oh, mothers, let's go down, come on down, don't you want to go down? Come on, mothers, let's go down, down in the river to pray.
When the breath of the river is rising to meet the sun, a quietness envelops you. You may hear some ducks or geese talking, gabbling back and forth. But most things seem to be quiet when the mists are heavy. The trees come and go like ghosts. It is the breath of the river.
As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown? Good Lord, show me the way.
The red-winged blackbird tells of the coming of fall, long before the other signs make themselves apparent. Autumn is coming, autumn is coming. They're excited. They gather in great groups and they talk incessantly. There are so many swarming and flying about, whirling, twirling like a dusky cyclone, almost like a hurricane of them, coming into roost. The flock goes as far as the eye can see. It's almost as if they'll never end.
It's early October, and autumn has come to the upper Mississippi River. A most colorful, beautiful time of the year. The sky is a deep azure. The leaves have changed colors from the greens of summer to the reds and golds and yellows, and here and there still a tinge of green, a remnant of summer. And the leaves are crisp and like cornflakes under your feet. The waters assume the colors of the sky. They too are much bluer. The coming of autumn does evoke a certain sense of melancholy.
best morning. Got yourself a gun. Your mama always said you'd be the chosen one. She said you're one in a million. You got to burn and shine. But you were born under a bad sign with a blue moon in your eyes. And you woke up this morning and you did it, girl. You got yourself a gun. You got yourself a gun. You got yourself a gun.
The whole idea of hunting being a sport is somewhat foreign to me. Sports to me are basketball, baseball, football, hockey. But when it comes to hunting, fishing, or trapping, it's quite a different matter. It's a very serious matter because it's a life or death thing. No matter who we are or where we come from, our ancestors were all hunters and gatherers. And we, even to this day, are all killers in one form or another. We sometimes raise cattle or sheep or pigs, and yet one fine day we take it upon ourselves to kill them. Now that to me is a much different scenario than killing a wild thing. A wild thing knows that you are not good news, that you intend to harm them when you shoot at them or stalk them. They instinctively know to get away from you. Not so with a domestic animal. And then the very worst form of killing is something that is not done directly to the critter. When we build our shopping malls, our highways, our artificial world, and we take away the critters' homes, we take them away forever, not just for today. We don't just kill one duck today to eat. We kill ducks that would have survived, would have thrived, would have reproduced for generation after generation. Autumn is a time of preparation for all critters and birds. The Mississippi River is one of the great migration corridors in the world, the upper Mississippi River in particular. Birds have followed the ancient pathways in the sky to the south for eons. Some would argue that the tundra swan is the most beautiful bird along the Mississippi River. They're only visitors here, but they create quite a spectacle. They come from the far north, of course. Their name says it all, the tundra, where they have spent the summer raising their young and putting on fat reserves for their long trip south. They come together within a day or two of the 20th of October. Sometimes as many as 6,000 or 8,000 birds, and this is the only stop they'll make on their way to Chesapeake Bay. When the tundra swans arrive, it is a sign of winter approaching. When the tundra swans leave, winter is here.
Some bright morning when this life is over, I'll find a way to their home on God's celestial shore. I'll find a way. I'll find a way, oh glory. I'll find a way.
with the transition from late fall into winter, a great quietness begins to descend upon the land. And it is lonesome, for I miss my feathered friends. I miss their songs, I miss their gabble, their talk, the whisper of their wings. And I long for the time when they will return. Outdoor experience is always pleasurable. It is where all of us folks, our ancestors, began life in the out of doors. It has only been fairly recent that we tend to spend our lives indoors talking about the out of doors. We are all inherently outdoors people. I think that's why we can say with definite truth that who would hear a flock of Canada geese flying over without looking up?
Who would hear the ancient howl of the coyote without feeling a certain shiver go up your spine? Who could see the eagle raising their young with the coming of spring without feeling a sense of rejuvenation, rebirth? Even though we live in an artificial world, we belong to the natural world. That is our true calling. We're fellow travelers with all things in that great circle of life. It is our legacy, and it is a precious one.